Hooray, the 100th day of class. Remember when you were a little kid and it was a big deal and you had a little party and little pencils and little knickknacks? I don't have anything like that for you. But I do have the nationalism formula. And hopefully this answers this fundamental question: how are modern countries created? And I broke it down to a list of 8, and I liken it to baking a cake. Now, if I bake a cake, I have, flour, I have butter, I have sugar, and in and of themselves, it doesn't make a cake. You put it all together, you go through the process, and you have a cake. Now, some people will argue this list and say, you need to add something, you need to take something away, I don't agree with you. So this is not etched in stone. This is my list of how to create nationalism, and it's an 8-part formula: a defined geographic border, gaining the unity of the people, a revolution replacing the old way of doing things, iconography and symbols, propaganda, the creation of commonalities, common values, patriotic gestures, national self-identity, common language, and this notion of the other, music and national anthem, and an educational system that promotes all of these items. Now, if I look at the world of today, there's 195 modern countries. This is a very familiar sight. Anybody who's been in a school has seen this on the wall, has seen it on a globe. So how did this world happen? How did we come to this world of modern countries with all these lines? And some of them are geographic lines, obviously the Rio Grande River, but some of these lines are fairly arbitrary. If anybody wants to explain this, how 4 nations intersect at one point. So some are man-made, some are geographic, but let's break down this formula. But before we do, let's compare it to the past. And in the past, early man hunting and gathering, very collectivist, everybody working together for a common goal, and it lasted a really long time. Agrarian collectives, people stop hunting and gathering, they stay in one place, and again, it's this very collective sort of vibe. And then civilization kicks in. Then we see the rise of different ways of running ourselves. Empires, conquering big areas of land and infusing your culture into the people you culture. City-states, independent cities that run themselves as separate governments, republics, Rome with representative officials that speak on your behalf, monarchies ruled by king and queen with feudalism that goes along with it, the Chinese dynasties, theocracies where religious nations mix with the government. So modern countries are different than this story that I hope you've already learned. We're right about here. We're in 1750, in the beginning of Unit 4, and you can just see all of a sudden, just modern country, modern country, modern country. So let's break down the 8 steps. Number 1, a geographic border. Now, there are some people that have a nation in their heart, but they don't have a homeland to go to. If you were called diaspora, you get kicked out of your homeland and you're traveling. In this day and age, there are some people who say we need to build a wall to separate Mexico from the United States. The Great Wall of China designated a border to China. Israel, now this has changed a lot since Israel's inception in the 40s, and it's changed in my lifetime, and it probably will change some more. What do these green mean versus the yellow and whatnot? Here's my daughter in Canada looking right across the river. There's Detroit. Totally different set of rules, different way of doing things here, and a simple river separates the two. But you need to have a geographic border. Fairly simple, but fairly important. Number 2, the unity of the people. Now, this is a little more challenging. And if you look at history, to get the unity of the people takes very strong leadership. And oftentimes, unity is achieved in times of tragedy. I remember after September 11th, this country was united in a way that I had never seen in my lifetime. When I was a little kid and the Challenger blew up in '86, there's this unity. So unfortunately, tragedy seems to be the impetus to a lot of unity, but we have rallies and we have gestures to say, hey, we're all on the same page. We're all in it together. Just like High School Musical. We even have pep rallies at the school to say, hey, we're all part of the same team. So number 2, unity of the people. Now the 3rd step is a revolution replacing the old way. And it doesn't have to be military, but there has to be a change to really forge who you are. And if I scale it to a very personal level, once you're grown, you might change the way you were raised. That's a personal revolution. That solidifies who you are. And here's George Washington crossing the Delaware, getting rid of England to become America. Here is Russia and Lenin, switching from the aristocracy of the Tsar into a communist nation, the end of the Chinese dynasties in 1912, and people who want change will resist, they will fight, and they will forge their own identity. Number 4, iconography. Not a familiar word to a lot of people, but it's a symbol. And it's a symbol that supports the idea that the nation and its very powerful centrifugal force, flags, currency, mythology, material, sports, culture on a simple level. The Union Jack. Here's the English flag, here's the Scottish flag. Put it together, you get the Union Jack. In America, we have the eagle. We have apple pie. We have, if you look at any of our currency, the eagle holding 13 arrows in one talon and an olive leaf in the other. I'm going to fight, but I want peace. And there are symbols all over in the classroom. We counted close to 30 just in my classroom. It was ubiquitous. It was surrounding us. But you need to have iconography and symbols. Now, propaganda is the effort to spread a belief or an opinion about a certain issue. Now, commercial advertisers do it, the media, government, special interest groups, public officials all use propaganda. In and of itself, it's not inherently bad. It's simply an attempt to get people to think a certain way about something, because a lot of people are on the emotional level, the hunch level, the gut level, not on the intellectual, cerebral brain level. So propaganda can hit you. And I want to show you a couple examples from the two major wars. And again, there's the bad guy killing the little girl. It's hitting you with this fear and anger. This guy, bad guy, the assassin. Ooh, let's feel rage right now. This one's appealing to, to manhood. Hey, Daddy, why didn't you fight, you big wimp? Nobody wants to be a wimp to their kid. Hey, you want your women to like you? Go to war. So it's really appealing to this notion of being a man. In fear, you can see demons and I don't know what the heck that is, a griffin or, you can't read the language, but still, it's scaring you. It's far better to face the bullets than be killed by a bomb. Again, it touches people on a very emotional level. Look at this guy. Hey, exotic location looking like $1 million. I want to do that. Hey, I'm not doing much with my life. Hey, let's join the army. Use your religious beliefs that Jesus wants you to fight. I'm not a priest. I don't think that's exactly the right thing. Strikes me as a bit blasphemous. Again, hey, you want to be a soldier? The pretty girls are going to kiss you. All right. And even you take your leaders, looking strong, looking fit. Looks like Hitler did some Pilates or something. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. I'm one person, one people, one leader. And again, you use people, you can use history. Here's Hitler looking to some German figure of the past. And propaganda hits you on a very emotional level. Whether it's rah-rah, whether it's offensiveness, whether it's fear, protect your mother, which is a very natural emotion. If you don't fight, oh, the Kinder, oh no, the Kinder, you have to support the kids. What's for the children? Here's from a German child's book, so a little kid can say, yeah, everybody's pointing the guns at us. Let's use a little fear to mess with kids' heads. You better be ready to fight, because if you don't, we're going to get taken over by all these bad guys. And it can be here, thank you, Nigeria. Your groundnuts fed us. We're better together. Propaganda, it's all these sorts of things. This is hanging in my room right now. This is a good one. She may look clean, but pickups, good time girls, prostitutes, spread syphilis and gonorrhea. But there was a real need. STDs took a lot of soldiers out of World War II. And again, here's a corporate example. They're happy because they eat lard. Okay, lard is very fattening. People that eat lard don't look like that. People that eat lard look like me, okay? But it's, propaganda is used in all different things. You ride alone with Hitler, if you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. So you get the gist. Propaganda. That will get an emotional response right there. And again, oftentimes it's been used for very nefarious reasons, like the anti-Semitism of Nazi Germany and whatnot. And here's some anti-Japanese sentiment. There's some American woman getting taken away by, Japanese soldier, and it's scaring us, and it's that kind of thing. And I'll stop here. Okay. Now, number 6 is the creation of commonalities, common values. Now, core democratic values, you learn this as a little kid: equality, patriotism, truth, so on and so forth. That's considered American values. Patriotism. We say the pledge before homeroom every day. Before every Tigers game you go to, they play the national anthem. You wear red, white, and blue. You hang the flag during Veterans Day and the 4th of July and whatnot. Acts of patriotism. National self-identity. That they've studied people And the family is the number one identity. It's the natural identity. But number two is being an American over your religion, your ethnic group, your career. And considering America has people of various countries, there is a process to not have this be your chief affiliation and have this be your chief affiliation. So to say, hey, you are all American. Now, nobody's born thinking that. Little kids don't think that. It has to be taught. Language, English. Students that come to the school who speak another language are immediately put into a class where they learn English, because to have nationalism, you need to have a common language. And then the other. The other is this notion, to solidify who you are, you have to say, this is who I am not. Now, on a very small scale, if I asked any of my students, who's the other for you? Who's the person you are completely not like? And you'll say, oh, that person, because they do this, this, and this, which is the opposite of you. Now, when I was a little kid, it was USSR. They're not Americans. They're bad. We're the opposite. Then in high school, it was Iraq. Saddam Hussein. We're not Iraq. We're bad. Russia's okay now. Blah, 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 blah. In modern times, it's North Korea. But you need to create that other to solidify your own identity. And music. Every nation in the world has an anthem, because music is a very powerful tool. Best national anthem I ever saw was Whitney Houston, Super Bowl 25. Unbelievable. If you didn't feel patriotic listening to that, I don't know how you couldn't. It's unbelievable. But we do this over and over and over. And we even teach it to little kids. Here's patriotic music for kids, patriotic music for all occasions. And anthems and music are an effective tool to increase people's nationalism. And the eighth is an educational system. Now, I just want you to think about this, and it varies by state to state, but here in Michigan, or at least here at our school, you take U.S. history for 3 years of your life, in 5th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. You take government for a year in 11th grade, then you take civics as you depart into the world as an adult citizen. It's the last class you'll take. And, you think about it, social studies teachers are fairly new on the scene. We've had math teachers forever. But this notion of a social studies teacher, what's our job? It's to create citizens. And there's other, at school, we say the pledge every day at homeroom. We sing the national anthem before every sporting event and pep rally. We have ESL instruction for all of our students new to the United States, learning how to speak English. And we create an American identity through a common experience, exposure to American culture. You go through school, you come out of it as a graduate with a cultural experience. You have an American experience, and every school in the world is part of fostering that nationalism. So the national formula again: define geographic borders, gaining the unity of the people, a revolution replacing the old way of doing things, iconography and symbols, propaganda, creation of commonalities, common values, patriotic acts, national self-identity, common language, a notion of the other to solidify who you are, music, national anthem, and an educational system that promotes it all. Now, in prior classes, people have said it applies to other areas of society. Now, it gets fairly controversial. You can probably read between the lines, but I'll take something light and fluffy. Being a Detroit Lions fan. I was born in Metro Detroit. Most likely, I'm going to be a Lions fan. Unity of the people, defense, defense, go Lions. Revolution replacing the old way. Baseball used to be the king of American sports. Football has replaced that, at least for now. Iconography and symbols. Honolulu blue and silver, that Lions helmet. You can even use the old great Lions, Billy Sims and Barry Sanders, and they bring them up as figures of iconography. Propaganda. Restore the roar, television commercials, radio jingles, propaganda. Common values, maybe not so much, but if you go to a Lions game and everybody's dressed the same, saying the same things, that's a form of creating commonalities. There is a Lions song. I can't sing very well. Onward down the field, the Lions team that will not yield. And you sing the song every time they score a touchdown, which isn't very often, unfortunately. And then an educational system. When I was a little kid on the playground, we all had Lions hats on and Lions shirts on. And at school, if the Lions did well, we celebrated collectively. So you can think about this formula for other things. But for now, hopefully you can agree, these are the 8 steps to make a nation. And to end with the analogy, it's taking 8 disparate ingredients, putting it together, baking it, and it's like the nationalism cake. You put it together and you have a country. Thank you for watching.